Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to be talking with you today about rounding still. Today, we're going to bump that up and we're going to be rounding to the nearest 100. We're going to still touch on rounding to the nearest 10, but we're going to be moving on and focusing more on rounding to the nearest 100 today. Our learning objectives are still the same as they were from last week, so you already know what we're going to be learning, why we need to be learning it, and how we're going to know. So let's just jump right in today and get started on rounding to the nearest 100. The first problem we're going to do, though, is just a review of last week, rounding to the nearest 10, and then how can we see that on the number line. So right now you're going to see a number line displayed. You're going to actually see numbers that you're going to plot on there. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to do an insert for my shapes. And I'm going to get a little circle so that we can see it well. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on there so I can color it up. I'm going to go ahead and plot 6. I know that 6 is between, and these are things that you should always ask yourself. 6, what number is 2 tens is 6 between? It's actually between 0 and 10, and it's past the halfway mark. Remember we talked about that benchmark that's halfway between the numbers? So we know it's the very next number over. I'm going to go ahead and click that. My circle is just not the right color for me for now. I want it to be a little darker, so I'm going to choose probably a red so that we can see it well on our screen, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so that when I plot it you can actually see it. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up there. About got it too small there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put it close to where the halfway mark is and make it just a tad bit smaller because it's so big I can't see the number line really well. All right, so we know it's going to be close to 10, it looks like, because it's past that halfway mark and it's closer to the 10. I'm going to also do the same thing, so I'm just going to copy and paste that one. It'll make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to copy that one, and then I'm going to paste it so that I can move it over. And I know, if I'm thinking correctly, that 43, the 2 tens that 43 is between is 40. Because of that 4, I know that it's going to be past 40, so I know it's going to be between 40. And then the next 10 would be 50. So I also know, I also know that it's not going to be the halfway point between 40 and 50. It's going to be a little closer over here. Not that close though. Just a little bit closer there. And it's going to be closer to 40. The next thing that I'm going to do is the 82. Again, I'm going to be thinking what 2 tens 82 is between. Because of the 8 that's in the tens place, I already know it's going to be at least 80. The next 10 is going to be 90. So I'm going to go ahead and paste again to get my circle or dot. And I also know that it doesn't go past the halfway mark, so it's going to be closer to 82 or 80 on the number line, the 10. Sorry about that. So it is 82. We already know that. Okay, so we're going to be closer to the 80. So in this case, I can see where each number rounds because of that midpoint benchmark number that we talked about with half. So what would this look now if I took all of these same numbers and tried to put them on a number line and round to the nearest 100? Could I do that with these numbers? So let's try it. So again, I'm going to go ahead, because we already know where to plot those. I'm going to go ahead and paste my circle on there. And then I'm going to do the same with the others, because we've already done that. I'm going to pull those over. Probably should have just copied that number line. It might have made my life a little easier, but it's okay. We're good to go this morning. It's Monday and we're good to go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 there, 82 there as well. And then I am ready. This one's going to have to go over just a tad bit more. All right, now I'm ready to think about rounding to the nearest 100. So I want to know what would be the nearest 100. So if I'm looking at this 6, I can already see that 6 is between 0 and 100. If I'm going to be rounding this 6, who's it closer to? we've got to think about that midpoint number. And in this case, we know that 50 is in between 0 and 100. So if we're thinking about that midpoint number and we were to take this number line and draw it up where it had like a big curve in it, if I had numbers that were below that midpoint and I had a ball that I was going to roll on there, and you'll be watching a video about that today, that ball is going to roll back to 0. So if I'm looking at this 6, it's going to round to 0 if I'm rounding to the nearest 100. Then I'm going to look over here at 43. And again, I'm going to think about that same thing. If I were having this number line pulled up, right here in the middle would be right at the main top of it. That 43 is going to land somewhere over in here. So if I was a ball, I'd be rolling back down to the 0. Okay, now let's look over here at 83 or 82. 82, again, if I pull that number line up, the ball's going to roll down toward 100. It is past that halfway mark. So that means that it's going to roll down to 100. So that's telling me that I'm going to round to the nearest 100. Now today you're going to be watching a video when you watch this PowerPoint, and the video is actually from YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to watch that together. I want you to listen to this song because this song is going to actually tell you about rounding if you listen closely to it. And it's a really cool song. When you meet with me this week, we're going to learn a little um, kind of motions to go with it so that we can have those to help remind us. So if we go back to what we were talking about today, and we were thinking about what that song says, that song actually says, find your place. What does that mean to find your place? You all have already learned about place value. So finding your place is what place am I rounding to? Am I rounding to the nearest 10? Am I rounding to the nearest 100? Am I rounding to the nearest 1,000? As you go through school, you're going to be rounding to different place values. So you've got to find your place. Finding your place is what place value am I rounding to? We're going to be working on rounding to the nearest 100. So when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we're going to find our place in the hundreds place value. We're going to look next door. Looking next door means I'm going to look to the right. I'm going to look to the right to see what number's there. If the number is 5 or more, we're going to raise the score. If the number's 4 or less, we're going to let it rest, meaning the number's not going to change. The place value number's not going to change. It's either going to, if it's a 6, then it's going to stay 6 if my number is 4 or less. And then I'm going to look to the right. Everything that's to the right of that place value, if we're rounding to the hundreds, is going to become zeros. So that song is actually telling us what we're doing on our number line. We're looking at that number line. If we know that it's at the midway point or to the right, we're raising the score. If it's not at that midpoint, if it's below that midpoint, if it's 4 or less, then we're going to let that number rest. It's going to stay the same. It doesn't change when we're rounding. So keep that in mind, and we'll work on this song all the way through, but we can apply that to what we've already learned with that number line. It actually confirms what we've been doing with our visual number line model. So I hope you enjoy your day. If you have any questions, you know I'll be on the main Google Meet after we finish our whole group lesson, and then I'll be back on there after our small group lesson. You guys have a great day, and I look forward to this week. See you soon.